put up with it.
Well,
and by the way, egg prices are supposed to come down, not airplanes.
Well, let me say someplace that could really use a lot of cutting. There's Elon has very many, what do you call it?
Government contracts?
Yeah. I think, because I don't remember, maybe y'all heard it, but I don't remember looking for an armored car. And I don't remember, I don't care what it looks like. I don't remember asking for it. I don't know why I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I want to know, when did I say, hey, we need another agency next to NASA?
Yeah.
So when did we start paying for his stuff?
You talking about SpaceX overseeing FAA?
No. You know that he's going to be cutting NASA.
Yeah.
That's the competition. So what is the real deal here?
Money.
If we want to cut some money, let's cut some of these. I'm okay with that.
Follow the money.
Because we have to pay for it. You are paying for everything he sends up that comes back down, that falls back down and breaks up. That's out of our pockets. We'll be right back.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about this heated interview between Republican Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee and Miss Pam Brown of CNN. As CNN and mainstream liberal media, they're continuing their fake outrage over DOGE.
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity, when you get a bankrupt company and you go in there, you cut 20% more than your initial read. And then you find, like a pool of mercury, the organization gels back together again. Always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste. The FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing, keep hacking while you have a 24-month mandate before the midterms. Cut. More cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody should be happy about this.
Even people with the nuclear codes, cut them too?
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
But it's not clear that they're even asking people to show us what you're doing. Again, this was a story Friday, and literally Elon said, oops, we gotta rehire them because nobody knows how to do what these people know how to do.
Yeah, the nuclear thing, okay, gets it wrong once in a while, big deal, so what?
I agree with that.
That's 10% of the time.
It's okay. I actually think it's okay if they run into a stumble here or there, because the project is so massive. The need to cut is so massive. The government is so massive. It's inconceivable that you wouldn't make a mistake here or there. But I think that's acceptable if the greater goal is achieved, which is a smaller government, more efficient government. Trim the fat.
Even if someone dies, or even if someone, because
are you alleging that someone has died from this?
We don't know. I'm talking about when the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about, for example, Kansas City. 30,000 government employees might be laid off. It will destroy the economy of Kansas City. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm reading what the individuals from Kansas City have been saying, that they're very concerned.
What do you think they're going to say when they're going to get whacked?
Of course they're going to say that. But my point is, do we think that's smart to live in an American city just go under?
How many American cities need a massively oversized federal government to stay afloat? I mean, isn't that said more about the city than the government?
But when did we get to the point where presidents are measuring themselves by how many people they put out of work instead of how many people they get jobs
for? Not a moment too soon.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is
because the government only ever gets bigger,
fat chickens,
never
hopefully they lay some eggs and maybe then we can afford.
I don't understand why is it that the liberal media and the Democrats just don't get it when it comes to the fact that the American people support what President Trump and Elon Musk are doing. But, hey, this is the hill they want to die on. It is what it is. But when the American people find out that we are wasting trillions of dollars potentially on waste, fraud, and abuse, these people, it's just going to be hard to defend. Like, for example, when it comes to Social Security, Democrats are raging about, don't touch Social Security, don't cut grandma's check. First and foremost, grandma's check is not being cut. But when you talk about $70+ trillion in, quote, improper payments of Social Security, that's an issue that the American people want fixed.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the report also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by DOGE is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
Yeah, I mean, and also $72 billion, and that's without a comprehensive search. I mean, that's significant.
What are the plans to do so if those records are obtained?
Well, as we know, there's a massive amount of fraud in this country. You have, for example, foreign fraud rings. These are foreign nationals who come into the United States. They use fake Social Security numbers. They use fake identities to steal billions in taxpayer benefits. There's no way to know until DOGE gains full access exactly how much money we're talking about. But over a 10-year normal budget window, you could be talking about saving over $1 trillion by clamping down on massive fraud in our tax and entitlement systems, including, again, those carried out by organized fraud and theft rings. A very important point in all this is to understand that DOGE are subordinate staffers of the federal government. They are political appointees, just like me, just like everyone else in the White House, that serve and answer to the president. So we're not talking about an outside private entity. We're talking about the existing federal staff of the federal government performing their statutory and constitutional duty.
It's really that simple. It's really that simple. But again, for whatever reason, the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats, they feel the need to freak out about what's happening, what's going on. They want to ask a whole bunch of questions about what the Trump administration is doing, while they had no concerns whatsoever about who was running the Biden administration, even though we knew that Biden was not mentally capable of running anything, right? He wasn't running anything at all. Kamala Harris is too incompetent and dumb to run anything. We had no clue who's running the country for the last 4 years straight, maybe Obama, but the mainstream liberal media had no concern. Now, all of a sudden, they're faking outrage. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this interview between the CNN propagandist and Pam Brown, because she's going to cut off this interview at the end when Pam Brown basically drops a truth bomb on CNN. So without further ado, let's get into it.
But you know, I think that there's a lot of Americans who are supportive of this effort to clear out government waste, including members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. But there's also...
No, they're not, right? No Democrat is actually willing to do this, okay? If Democrats wanted to do it, they would have done it before. But there are no Democrats that are on board with this, okay? So to pretend as if both sides want to do this, that's not true, right? Democrats don't want to do this at all. They love government waste and blue.
Concerned by how much access Musk and DOGE staffers have to their private sensitive data. You're also on the House Oversight Committee, and given what we just talked about, Musk's investments with China and billions of dollars before the government, and now, you know, potentially having access to all this private sensitive data and not having full transparency on what is happening with that.
Yes, ma'am.
What information do you actually have on what DOGE is doing with that data? What are your questions? What do you want to know? Certainly, as a member of the Oversight, you have some questions.
Well, first of all, Elon Musk, when he owned PayPal, they never had a breach of security. IRS is a nightmare, ma'am. You have folks that still haven't gone back to work 3 or 4 years after COVID. As a United States congressman, I can write a letter of concern over a constituent of mine that's having a problem with the IRS, and it takes up to 6 months for me to get a response.
Look, I'm not saying there's no problems with government agencies or the IRS.
Hold on. You asked me a question.
But you're not answering it.
And the IRS the IRS has hundreds of different groups that have access to this stuff, and yet no one's complained about that. You don't hear
there's checks and balances in place for the specific system. That's not true. Even the IRS, even politicals and the former IRS commissioner who was just on the show yesterday said even he didn't go to it, and it's highly unusual for politicals to have access to that system. Do you not have questions about what they're doing with the data, why they want access to private tax information from Americans? Do you not have those questions as a member of the Oversight Committee?
I have questions. The only reason you'd have questions is if you're doing something crooked, and you're going to see a lot of congressmen with red faces when they follow this paper trail back to members of Congress, ma'am. And that's the bottom line. Where were they fussing the last 3 or 4 years? I mean, we've had these groups different groups have access. Hundreds of different people have access to this that are nowhere in the scope of what needs to be. And yet no one raised one peep about it. Now Elon Musk gets a hold of it, and he's going to do something. He's going to make some changes that need to be made. And you all are pitching a fit. It's the same old line, and you attack the message carrier,
clear, you
not
all
the
were
message.
not pitching
Facts. Facts. I mean, these people claim that we're so concerned about data breaches and security. And it's like, well, Elon Musk was the co-founder of PayPal, right? Which is a payment company, right? That has all of our private information about our bank accounts and all types of stuff. And they never had a major security breach or anything like that. So you talk about somebody that knows something about cybersecurity, that is Elon Musk. But here's the thing. I don't even think, again, Elon Musk is not hands-on when it comes to this stuff, right? I really do believe that Elon Musk is just the guy that the Trump administration is using to point the finger at and say, yeah. You guys can rage over Elon Musk making the decisions, even though he's not really making the decisions. Because the actual Trump administration, okay, Scott Bassett, Stephen Miller, you have Russell Vought, okay, of the budget. Like, I believe personally that the actual Trump administration, they're the ones that are actually, making the final decisions. Now, Elon Musk, I think what he is contributing more than anything is a talented group of engineers and individuals from the private sector who can revolutionize and upgrade our systems. That is what's happening. And no, I do not have any real concern about any potential data breach or anything like that, because again, we're working with the best engineers in the world. Now, again, the IRS is not like they have the best and most modern systems. In fact, the IRS was subject to a data breach that exposed the personal information over 700,000 taxpayers due to security weakness back in 2015. So, I mean, let's be real. Some of these systems date back as old as 40 years, making them more vulnerable to cyber threats, right? This is something that, again, needs to be modernized. But for whatever reason, the mainstream media, they're standing against it. I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't get it.
Fit a lot. As I said, a lot of people think it's a good thing to weed out waste, but there are fair questions to be asking congressmen about these unelected people going in and having access to private information from America. How can you not be asking those questions? Those are very fair questions.
Ma'am,
but hold on, let me follow up with you. Hold on, because there's a difference between, listen.
Hey, hold on for a second. How many people at the IRS are elected? How many of those are elected, ma'am? You're proving my point. You've got all these people, and this is a very porous agency. We know that.
There's a difference between civil service and checks and balances in place in a small group and politicals who are going in, many of them young staffers who we know nothing about, really. Do
we know anything about the people currently working at the IRS that have access to all our data? Do we know anything about these people? You know nothing. You just got to trust that the people running the IRS have hired people and vetted people that are not going to do anything nefarious with it, which, by the way, they have much more of an incentive. Some random person that the IRS hires has much more of an incentive to do something nefarious with the data than Elon Musk and his team, which, again, by the way, a lot of the DOGE people have been essentially vetted by the Trump team, right? They've been vetted by the Trump team. So these aren't just random people, okay? But that's what CNN wants you to believe.
But why don't you have those questions as a member of the Oversight Committee? If a Democratic administration was doing this, would you not be asking questions?
And the questions are being asked, ma'am, but I want you to look at these guns.
I'm not hearing them from you.
Those are Japanese. Those are Japanese rifle that, guess what? My dad was 21 years old when he killed the people that carried that. You all don't question the fact that, with these 22-year-old people, the ones that fight our dadgum wars, but yet
there's a difference between members of the greatest generation going to foreign service, risking their life to serve our country, and young staffers going in with their computers and trying to get access to personal data. There is a big difference, but I want to follow up here. I just want to follow up because I think this is an important question.
You won't answer your own questions, ma'am.
No, Congressman, hold on. I want to go to this question because, again, it's not a question of whether waste should be rooted out of the government. So many people agree with that. But now we're seeing it's the way it's being done. The government is trying to claw back several employees who oversaw nuclear weapons after they were fired. They realized, oh, we made a mistake. We need these staffers who oversee nuclear weapons. A professor at the University of Maryland, Don Kettle, who specializes in civil service, told the Washington Post that, yes, the government is likely full of wasteful bloat, but said a clumsy fix is worse than no fix at all, saying it's like going to a meat market, getting a piece of steak, and trying to cut out the fat with a sledgehammer. That would only make a mess of the meat. Do you think, Congressman, that is a fair point, that the way this is being done is clumsy rather than methodical?
Again, you're upset about you're attacking the message carrier, not the results. You talk about nuclear secrets. You had a person who was in charge of nuclear secrets, a man who dressed up as a woman, would go into the airport and steal women's luggage, was overseeing those nuclear secrets under the Biden administration. And I never heard y'all say a peep about that. Again, man,
I don't know anything about that. I'll be transparent.
Elon Musk, well, you need to look it up. It's all over the internet. It's all over. He was uncharged.
But the question is, this is unrelated to the people overseeing nuclear weapons being fired. And Elon Musk himself said, we're moving so fast, of course there will be mistakes. The question is, some of these mistakes are really high stakes. Accidentally firing people overseeing nuclear weapons. Do you see that point?
Humans will make mistakes, ma'am, but currently these are bloated programs. You have no-show employees that are angry that they're having to go back to work, that they've moved, and they're not.
No
even
one's
in the
disagreeing. There's bloat and waste.
Jobs were.
No one's disagreeing.
Well,
with
then
that.
why are y'all not exposing it? Have y'all even talked about? Hey, Mozambique, we sent them $10 million for circumcisions. Okay. I mean, goodness gracious, ma'am, Americans are paying.
We've been covering at length
salaries.
Where the money is going
to. No, you
to.
haven't. All y'all do is run down Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and you continuously do this, and that's why your ratings are in the tank, ma'am. All
right, Congressman Tim Burchett, we're going to leave it there. I do appreciate your time coming on and having this conversation. Thank you very much. but
Yeah, so she cut off the interview when Tim Burchett dropped the truth bomb that, all you guys do is rage against Elon Musk and Trump all day. And this is why your ratings are in the tank. This is why nobody watches CNN. So, listen, mistakes are going to be made, right? Yeah, you're going to end up firing some people that you probably shouldn't fire. But you go back and you fix it and you keep it moving, right? You don't let that stop the mission, right? When you talk about a government as big as our government, yes, you're going to make some mistakes, okay? Everybody that's fired probably shouldn't be fired. But again, that's why you go back, you reevaluate, okay, we messed up here. We fix it, we move on, right? That's essentially how this works, okay? That's how this process works. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be tough. But these are tough decisions that have to be made for the good of the country in the long-term financial health of the country, which, CNN and Democrats don't seem to be concerned about, right? But like I said, it doesn't matter how much they rage, it doesn't matter how much they fearmonger, right? It doesn't matter how much they lie, because a lot of times they're just lying, right? About, for example, when they talk about some of the cuts made to the FAA, no air traffic control people or anybody having to do with safety, like critical safety functions, is being cut, right? But they report on it as if that's the case. And it's like, no, that's not the case.
The AP reporting that their employees that are being laid off are on probationary status. So it's easier to lay them off because they're still on probation. They include radar, landing, and navigational aid maintenance. But isn't there already a shortage at the FAA? Why do this now, especially considering what's happened in the States? And now, of course, you have this other incident and a few others.
Yeah, well, this one happened in Canada, but
yes.
I can only tell you what the Secretary of Transportation says. There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. We're talking about fewer than 400 people, and he says 0 air traffic controllers and critical safety personnel were let go. So if that's true, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I do like the idea of keeping the people who are in the direct chain of command of safety and the air traffic control system and so on and so forth. But I have a hard time believing that there is a single government agency that doesn't have a bloat of administrative personnel that we could probably do without. And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So I'm reading to you what Sean Duffy says. He's the Secretary of the Transportation. I have no reason to doubt his numbers.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is something that the American people agree with. And if the liberal media and the Democrats want to continue to stand against it, hey, it is what it is. Okay, we'll see how it works out. I just don't think it's going to work out well. It definitely hasn't worked out well for CNN because their ratings just continue to decline. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.